Hello, welcome to Your Health Matters, Let's Talk. Your Health Matters, Let's Talk is a monthly program that discusses priority health issues that affect our daily lives. On this episode, we are discussing HIV discordancy. We have in the studio experts to help us discuss this issue. Dr. Aaron Mujajati is a physician at the University Teaching Hospital. We also have Mr. Justin Mwinga, a spokesperson at the National AIDS Council. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Before we get into the discussion, the proper discussion on HIV discordancy, let's have a look at this clip that was shot in Chirundu where we have a couple that is a discordant. Let's just watch this.
HIV. Ndakabola buku ndakalisisa nsabulo pudakaliwona pudakalisisa mukuyeya kwangu ndakazikuya kuti mukaintu wangu ali abona kuti ndilabulwa zobu chikwatiso chiramana sunu
ilo ndakalibona buku ndazikubona ati HIV positive moyo pesi wakazwa inoti wakazwa kwamati mbovu yape ndakasikuthili mongabiya ndilike mungande ndakabona buku pona moyo wakasikukhala alimu ulike ilo wakakala moyo nati ngoyi mwensuma wachanika kukuti andime nditiani andisandilichisi so bakandipima pona malisa uti akaswaka mati otamuchisi pe muchembele.
We have a situation whereby a woman is found with HIV while a man is HIV negative. In some instances, we have the opposite scenario whereby a man is HIV positive while the wife is HIV negative. They would want to separate. But as health workers, we do support them so that they don't, despite having this status, they have to support each other.
Mbuli mazuba yonse twabola ali mwibasa twalumba kututambula twasiga kuti tuwone kuti na bumi bwendera ali kumagani kwa musiri kwa mbuli mbonywa munywa ARVs.
Tikafika pa community, for example, tafika pa nyumba tifuna kuona muntu wodwala, tima itana na bamene baja bamene ankara nao, tima ankara kukambirana pankani yakamwedwe kamankwala.
Oyu musamu tulanywa muma 06 hours ikuseni alimi kumazuba achindi cha 18 hours tunywa antu omwe ayoyu komwe chindi chomwe
twalumba
chintu chiyandika nabo kubika mizezo kumakana musamu kunywa mbona mbuli doctor mbamupandrida.
The issues of HIV are very real here. Being at the border area, we have seen that the prevalence rate is high. Olojunza majoga mwabola mudala kuchita kuti awalo tukabone kambo chindi chimwi chirachitika kuti nyo mulijisi walo tajisi so chali kuyandika kuti kambo mulikwetene mwabola anto omwe.
As a country tonse tifaita kuyesa kufaita HIV kuita prevent is better. We should fight hard as volunteers. Go in the field. Let us follow the patients. Tikaba following ma patients baje. Tibauze cholinga chamene chakuti baja bantu bamvesese bazibe. Kulimagani ambuli amunganda ambuli ukale kwa munganda. Mbuli mbumukonzi akuli kwabirira mukala kuti.
Munganda mutukala jasika jinde ja intuswangana. Tulabele hatumakotu mupira. Tumakondomu.
Unabese makondomu. Okay. No kutika muchita bobo ngachakomanisha maningi. So mbona mbuli mpampandida ba doctor then anyebo nkuchirira mbona mbuli malayirire mbuli mbayandikana. Mbuli muno mumunzi mbanji bantu bamwe ba HIV positive. Ndugu asio nzindu mu bachitira.
yo twakataliga kyakali bantu nga bagali kuseka muni hivi abamu abuyo so ino yo twabasiwa echicha kuti katulisisa tachikwa hipe kambo chichintu chasika mungande yesu ticha tachikamani chunza pe chamutata kuya kusikira toni lililyo so ino twakapanga kabunga tulaswangana ansondoka ichindi chomwe so tulayisyanya kukwahanya alimu abamu bantu bamumizi abalo balihibya tawo tahipe so kambo bamu balabola kusiku cyana kuti bakanye lukwahe kuri ndiso
then alimwi ikintu kimutezere kuluba nchakuti kubikamizezo kumakana azyakulya kambozi yakulya guli zitwita iziyaga mubiri zitwita kuti body building guli ezia zipa inguzu energy then guli zezia ziwabirira imarwazi then alimi njanda kubuzya makani mbuli stigma mubona kuti mbuli muminzo muno na discrimination y'abantu sena abantu bonse bamulanganya buti
ta wambu batulanganya pe bandiga ibali
okay
bakatubona mbuli mutu kali kisidwe ayi bali tubona balatubona lyonse nitwenda kujikata
twalumba maningi basa muzumana nebiyata mwere tyakuleka mutaka chengwi ipeya muntumbi ati no musamu uyu ni nzinzi buli baba bapayirira aba bampasita bakubeja beja tupayire biyaleza ali mwintu zumana ne kunywa musamu uyu kambo kwa jindi jino ngo musamuleza ngwatupede upa kuti tuuka tuone
ndakali muntu wakuonona abuzupa takweni ndakali kubuka bya kuti ati mbuti ati ndikasike mbuliko kunako kya kupompi takwe ino ano mazuva ndirakwanisa kubereka ndilalima aplauri ya ng'ombe ndirajata ndiragonka hisamu ndiri aimwi ndiri turalima bya kusawita kabotu bya zonse zintu milimo ndirabereka kabotu maningi
iyo ndakambona kuti imensi chisi tawecho ndakaya nati ndiswe nanditiani ndakakhala biyo moyo ino so munyombo bayabutuyisha bamba chirachitika bamwingoli chisi umwita chisi ino bantu pamalaire mubumi bwanu pakutika mupona kabotu munganda. Your health matters.
Well, that was a clip from Chirundu on a couple that is discordant. I would like to find out, Dr. Mjajati, let me start with you. What is discordance?
Discordancy is a state in which you have, first of all, people who are married, and then between the two of them, one of them is HIV positive and the other one is HIV negative. That's the simplest way of putting it. Yeah.
Maybe let me put it this way. That a couple is in a relationship and they're in that relationship for a long time and they're having unprotected sex and one of them become discordant. How possible is it?
We may not just yet say empirically the circumstances that lead to something like this happening. However, it does happen, and it could happen for a time that may not be uniform for all couples. We know that at some point, even if such people, one of them negative and the other positive, we know that over time, there's a possibility of the one who is HIV negative to convert to HIV positive status if there's no effort taken to protect the person who is HIV negative to remain HIV negative.
So, Dr. Mjajati, how prevalent is HIV discordant in Zambia?
That's a very good question you've raised. I need to first of all explain what prevalence is. I'm not going to assume too much here. Basically, prevalence is basically a number that tells you the number of odd cases and the new cases in a population. And that's what it tells you, it's a percentage. Now, to say how prevalent it is in Zambia, it means that research must have been done. But that's where the problem is. The issue is that we do not have figures that actually can speak into that. But from a clinical standpoint, where if you ask me, do we see so many of these cases? now as we attend to people? The answer is yes.
Let's probably become more personal now. You have a situation where one is HIV positive, the other one is HIV negative. What are couples supposed to do in order to support each other in a situation like that?
I'll take you back first of all to your earlier question when you said, what causes discordancy? When you go back, you have to approach this matter from several angles. One of the angles is purely social. First of all, you have to rule out the fact that one of these people may not have disclosed their status before they got married. There's that chance. There's also a chance that there are some people who may not get the HIV purely because of their genetic status. Maybe their genes do not have the elements or the things that are required for the HIV virus to enter the cell. That said, that is still a gray area. Remember that from us who are in the scientific community, discordancy is a new matter in that we are still grappling with how to handle it, and we are also still grappling with how to define it. We are still grappling with how to explain it in terms of what actually causes it. So it's still a gray area. However, the problem is with us. So now that the problem is here, how do we deal with it? I think that's where we need to.
So how do you deal with cases of discordancy, Mr. Mwinga? Seeing that, looking at the background that the doctor has just given us.
Well, I think first of all, what we need to emphasize, at least from the National AIDS Council standpoint, is that we need to encourage people to know their HIV status. That is very important. And not only that, we also emphasize the fact that couples need to be encouraged to test together so that they can know their HIV status. If for some reason they discover that one of the two is HIV negative, then it is incumbent upon that couple to ensure that the person who is HIV negative remains protected from infection.
So is it possible, Dr. Mjajati, that one of the partners in a couple, the one who is negative, can remain negative forever?
First of all, it needs to be understood that when one is HIV negative, you also have to bear in mind that you could be in the window period. So you have to be tested again and again. And probably several tests would have to be done for us to be sure that you're actually negative. That's one. Two, a person who finds himself in a discordant couple, they're at very high risk of getting HIV because they're exposed to it. It's in their homes. Okay? And secondly, you talked about is it possible for someone to remain negative permanently? The information we have right now on this subject, remember I said it's a new subject, is that you cannot remain permanently negative. Hence the need to take precautions, and the precautions are many.
Could you just go through some of those precautions again? I know that you did mention the
condom
the
use.
condom use.
Yes. The other one is what we are calling as treatment as prevention. Okay? If one of the people in a discordant relationship is HIV positive, or the one who is HIV positive, it is recommended that they seek early treatment, because the earlier one is diagnosed and treated for HIV, the less risks of transmitting the virus to the person who is HIV negative. So that is one of the measures that can be taken to protect the person that is negative, to remain negative.
What happens is that I get a couple and say the husband is the one who is HIV positive. What we are going to do is to put the husband on HIV full treatment, regardless of CD4 count. So all these other guidelines of how to start ARVs fall off, because you are treating this person with a view to protect the other person. So you treat. Now the issue is that you know that when the HIV virus is suppressed, the risk of transmission is reduced, not removed. I think we need to be very clear there. The risk of transmission is reduced but not removed, meaning that they still have to continue using barrier methods. However, where, say, a husband or a wife is HIV positive and does not want to start ARVs, you cannot force them to be on ARVs. Say, I'm married, I'm HIV positive, my wife is not, and I have refused to start ARVs. You cannot force me to be on ARVs. But what you do is that you get the HIV negative partner or wife or husband, and you put them on ARVs.
Is that possible?
Okay, we call that pre-exposure. We call that pre-exposure prophylaxis.
I think we just explain that
Okay.
because I can get it from the audience. They are so shocked that a person who is not HIV positive can be put on ARVs.
Yes, it's one of those very rare circumstances where you find somebody who is HIV negative are on ARVs. The idea behind it is to prevent them from getting the HIV virus, so that when if the HIV virus enters their body, it finds that this person is already fortified to prevent getting the HIV. However, this is not to say that you go out there and
I like that. That's very interesting. Now,
this is not to say that you go out there and drink ARVs to prevent HIV.
To prevent yourself.
Or go and put ARVs in water so that when we drink our water, we're drinking ARVs as well. That's not to say that.
That's very interesting, but a very critical point that you've just raised,
Right.
Doctor, and I think very informative. Before we get, we have a studio audience, but before we get to the studio audience, I'd just like to find out, Mr. Mwinga, how should discordant couples support each other?
We know that there are problems that arise when there's this discovery of discordance, particularly if it so happens that it's the wife who is HIV positive and the man negative. Blame games start, that you brought this problem into the home. If it so happens that the person who is actually HIV positive is a woman, usually the problem will be that the marriage might actually be doomed. It might end on account of this discovery. Less so if it's a man who is found to be HIV positive. Again, perhaps it's because of our society, which to a great extent, unfortunately, might tolerate male infidelity. I think the way they could support each other really is arming them with sufficient knowledge and sufficient information that to be in a discordant relationship does not in any way entail a disruption of the relationship. You can still enjoy your sex life as normal as any other couple, including those who may not have HIV. You could actually still procreate. Remember that an HIV positive mother can still produce or bear an HIV negative child.
Very interesting, very critical. The issue of children, the issue of taking care of each other, and social factors. I would go on asking all these questions, but we have an audience, and I would like them to ask questions now. It's now time for questions from the audience. Audience, are you excited? Yes. Let me see those who have questions. Let me just see your hands. We have a lot, and there's Mutinta there. Please do us a favor.
My name is Kapembwa, and my question is, stigma from families and of course the community is one of the constraints of HIV testing. Now in a case if I wanted to test or I have tested and I find myself positive, how do I deal with the stigma?
Now, how do you address the issues of stigma? You need to be very careful who you tell. Who do you tell, who do you disclose to? It's very important for you to share your information with someone. The reason that is important is that you want to create a very important safety net, a social net, a safety net, where you can open up. But the issue is that be very careful who you tell. So who do you trust with your information? If you are married, your spouse, you have to tell her or him. If you are not, look for an uncle, your dad, or someone whom you trust, whom you can tell. But you see, I would discourage you from going to stand on a mountaintop and say, hey, look at us here, unless you are ready for that.
Thank you. I am Mombi Josephine, and my question is, disclosure of one's status, as in some cases, resulted in gender-based violence. So how can this be avoided?
I think let's start from the facts or the strategy of testing for HIV together as a couple. You might be boyfriend and girlfriend seeing each other, and you decide that you should test together. Or you might be a married couple, a wife and a husband. We are encouraging people to test together. That way, you reduce incidents of gender-based violence. Why? It's because a counselor will disclose to you your HIV status together. So you will not be alone, you will not know alone. You will not have the burden, you will not carry the burden alone home to say, look, I went to test and this is what I discovered. All right? If you are together, you will know at the same time. So your burden of disclosure is eliminated. And you also be counseled together on what you need to do regardless of the outcome of the test, negative or positive.
The lady at the back.
Thank you. My name is Abigail Piri. Considering that all couples are part of society, my question would be, what would the family or the community do to support the discordant couple?
Well, maybe I can start by identifying who makes up a community or society, as it were. I want to start with the couple itself. They are part of society. I would go on and identify, again, a health care provider, because it's a very critical part of the lives of the discordant couples. And general members of the community. We also have now people that are living with HIV forming what we call support groups to just reduce or indeed take care of the interests and concerns of people living with the virus. Communities need to be given sufficient information on just for them to understand what discordance is. Because most of the times we have got difficulties to deal with something that we hardly understand, isn't it?
Yes.
You see, you can deal with a situation that you ably comprehend. So it starts from the community understanding what discordance is. Coming from there, we'll be able to support discordant couples. Because the bottom line is that, or indeed for that matter, the aim is to ensure that we close the possibility of the person who is HIV negative converting to HIV positive. We want these people to lead as normal lives as anyone else, and they can. There's nothing that can stop them, for as long as we have got sufficient information on how we can support them.
Thank you very much. My name is Priska Tente. Many married couples want to have children. My question is, can discordant couples have children safely without transmitting the virus to either the partner or the child? Thank you.
They can have children who are HIV negative, provided that there is intervention of a healthcare provider.
If you are in a discordant relationship, you have to plan your pregnancy. In general, in Zambia, planning a pregnancy does not happen. In general, it
So
doesn't
how-
happen.
how do I
we
plan?
just get pregnant. Okay? No, we do. We do. In that, you have to decide when you want to get pregnant. And then a lot of other factors, because you're a discordant couple, need to be in place. Number one, the HIV partner must have been on ARVs and must have suppressed the virus. Okay? That conditionality has to be there. The HIV partner must have suppressed. It's good for the baby, it's good for the one who is not positive. And then when the mother is pregnant, she continues on ARVs. And then there are strategies that we use to prevent transmission now to the child, which have to do with the mode of delivery. Unfortunately, or rather fortunately, you have to get pregnant with your doctor. I don't know whether that sounds nice.
I think it makes sense because Mr. Mwinga did mention
your doctor
that
has to be involved. It's for discordant couples.
Person involved.
Yes.
Well, Mr. Mwinga and Dr. Mjajati would like to thank you so much for making an appearance on the program.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And equally for sharing this critical information on discordant couples. Thank you so much. And to the audience, thank you so much for your questions and your concerns. If you need more information on discordant couples or any other health-related matter, visit the Facebook page of the Ministry of Health. Well, that's it. That's the program. Until next month at the same time, this is Your Health Matters. Let's talk.
Whether you're a student or a mother, a lawyer or a banker, your health matters.
This program is brought to you by the Ministry of Health with support from the United States Agency for International Development and its Communication Support for Health project.